here we go. It's another Monday. It's lunchtime, and I have got another amazing guest. In fact, I've got a big guest, a guest who's huge because he's just so brilliant. And I can now call him a friend, which is lovely. And when I say big, he's big and cuddly. All right. He always wears a hat. He's got a beard, and he is just amazing at talking about all kinds of things. So today we're going to talk about public speaking and getting your voice and sharing your stories. And who else can help me but Nick Elston? Hello, welcome to the room.
Hello, Ash. That is the best intro ever. I'm going to take you with me everywhere I go now. I must admit, I was kind of digging the country vibe to the intro song as well. I've heard you do that live. It's a really great piece. I like that. Hey, everyone.
Nick. For those people that don't know you, and I didn't give the full story away, tell everybody who you are, what you do, please, Nick.
Okay, so my name is Nick. This isn't what Hagrid is up to on his day off, by the way. My name is Nick Elston. I'm an inspirational speaker on the lived experience of mental health. It is a proper job, I promise you. I've been doing this for around 12 years now, sharing my experiences of mental health, mental illness, to help get engagement around the subject from people that don't tend to engage in this stuff. But with my other cap on, what we're talking about today is that my work as a speaking coach. So I'm a transformational speaking coach. It ain't presentation skills, trust me. It's about changing your narrative to change your experience. So how can we use our stories and our adversities and our experiences to forge something better, to forge something beautiful and powerful, something that potentially could be defining you negatively right now. So that's something we'll delve into, I reckon, Ash.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were having a good old natter before we went live, all about storytelling as well, because well, you were in the accounting space a while back as well, weren't you? I think that's where we first clapped eyes on each other. But I talked to an awful lot of accountants and bookkeepers, and they go, "Oh, I've got nothing to say. I don't have a story." So let's dig into that. Why should we be telling stories, Nick?
So that's an interesting one, you see. So I'm not from the accounting space from my own career history, but I soon fell into it many years ago through speaking at Accountex. And when I was first brought in, it was the first time they've spoken about kind of lived experience and the use of stories to kind of get engagement around this stuff. And to be honest, I thought it could be kind of car crash material, but it's like standing room only, and people were hanging through the walls and windows trying to get a space. It was weird, but it was a real need for stories. And I think for me, being interesting is very subjective. We underestimate what people don't know about us, but it also stands us apart in this world. I think we stand truly unique in this world if we lean into our stories and showcasing all the adversities, the twists and turns that we've been through. And for me, that's a really good starting point, is that now more than ever, we need, trust me, now more than ever, we need human-to-human conversation to hear the experiences and stories of other people. Because it's very true. We do create personal brand through the stories that we tell. I guess it's a case of how much are you willing to share, maybe.
That's a good point. Because you get people sharing absolutely everything, and then you get other people like, "Oh, I wouldn't tell anyone about that." And so where do we draw the line, Nick?
So I call it vulnerability with a small v. I think if there's something that you want to share with the world, one of the best exercises we can do. I see Haley's on the call here. Hey, Haley. Haley heard me talk about this at her conference, and I was talking about the exercise where we can start to tell our stories from a third-person perspective. So I've always believed that the most powerful way to reframe our stories is to write out our experiences from a third-person perspective. So not I did this happened to me. Actually, it's a case of as if Morgan Freeman were narrating your life. And how cool would that be, by the way?
That would be good.
One day, maybe. But when you start to see your experiences in a third-person perspective, you suddenly start to see the value and the service you can bring to people by stepping up, finding your voice, and going to tell your story. It works on the old adage that my nan used to tell me growing up, that if everybody here put their problems into the middle of the room, you end up wanting to pick your own back because you never know what people are going through, especially in professional environments.
Oh, I love that one. But this is the thing: if we don't start telling people, people are never going to know. Okay, yeah. and I would just
that's a really interesting point, Ash. That you see a lot of this, sadly, that we just, unless you're showing the world your true self, how do you expect the world to engage with you on your terms? That we just become increasingly passive aggressive, that the world doesn't get us, or people don't understand us. And I find that really fascinating that we're not prepared to show ourselves, we're not prepared to take our mask off, but we'll be prepared to beat ourselves up and damage ourselves mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, that people just don't get us. So for me, actually, to take that mask off and find your voice is to be able to live a life on your terms, or have a career on your terms, or run a business on your terms, as you really openly do.
Yeah, and this is the thing.
If you're not doing it on your terms, by default, you're doing it on somebody else's terms. And that's enough to scare me enough to keep pushing and keep developing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As someone who is actually doing it on her terms is the wonderful Nat Creasley. Good morning.
Yes.
She's in Barbados. I think that's right. She's in Barbados, so it must be like the crack of dawn. So thanks for joining us. And yes, Morgan Freeman is going to be narrating Nick's live.
Okay, Nat wins. I'm in Yates, just north of Bristol, or Yate. So yeah. Barbados wins, and that I doff my cap to you.
But it's all on her terms, you see, and this is the thing. And I think the trouble is, we try and conform to fit what everybody else expects of us. And I was invited to a networking event run by solicitors. Okay, I give them a name check. It's Every Solicitors. They're based in the Southwest. Lovely bunch of people, and they invited me along to this networking event. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Solicitors, should I wear a shirt and tie? Should I get my suit out? And I'm thinking, no. They invited me. So I'll turn up in my yellow t-shirt, my jeans, and my Converse. Nobody batted an eyelid, Nick.
But that's the thing. We did. Well, if you think of it, we're conditioned to think that way. Even potentially, I mean, this could be a long conversation, but if you look at that through education, through society and familial expectations, through to our professional training, we're trained to do that. I mean, there are two reasons I dress the way that I do, whether I'm here today with you or standing in front of an audience or a law firm or whatever that may be. The first one is, if I'm going to be self-employed for the first time ever, I'm going to wear what the hell I want. There was a bloody-minded element, to be fair. The second element was, I cannot deliver authenticity if I'm not dressed authentically. So it wasn't some big marketing move. It was me trying to be comfortable in my own skin, telling my story, which goes against everything. And I mean, it's a really important thing that when people start to do that, when they start to show themselves, when they start to share their personal brand, when they start to step up or even stop people pleasing in terms of saying no to people they want to say no to and that kind of stuff, people really close to you will be really unsettled by that. So when I first went self-employed as a speaker many years ago now, it's gone back, 10, 11 years, I was told by people really close to me, you cannot do that. That's not a job. What it meant was that actually we don't see anybody really doing that, especially in the UK. In the US,
in Yate.
In Yate, yeah. So, but no matter what I would have said at the time, it wouldn't have changed their minds. And it wasn't done with any cruelty or bad intent or a lack of love at all. It was done because actually it was outside of the norm. So the only way you prove people wrong is actually by getting it done, achieving that success that you want to achieve by your own subjective terms of that subjective word success, and then showing up saying, that thing you said I can never do, yeah, I've done that. Next kind of thing. Yeah. I used to call that your biggest two-finger moment, but it doesn't go down well in primary schools when I run the shops.
But we get what you mean. But I think it's the naysayers that give us the motivation to keep going, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's certainly I mean, that's something I wanted to throw back to you, actually, was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. That I think certainly there's an element of that. I tend to try and run my own race now in terms of I try to keep the blinkers on and make sure I'm focusing on what I'm doing without looking too far either side as to kind of what's going on around me in the bigger sense. For me, that's been one of the biggest challenges when it comes to social media, for example. So if you look at, I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on TikTok. I am on LinkedIn, of course. Here I am. I am on YouTube, and I'm big on LinkedIn as well. And I do everything pretty much through LinkedIn. But from a mental health perspective, the overwhelm of opinions and not always negativity aimed at me, but seeing those kind of things play out in front of you. So actually any scrolling through a home screen for me was a real challenge. And even with LinkedIn, I very rarely scroll my home screen in case you do get that kind of like FOMO, or you do get that, I should be doing that. And it's such an easy distraction. So yeah. I'm throwing it back to you now. How do you deal with this kind of stuff?
Yeah, great question. One of the bits of advice I give to people because I coach as well as just do LinkedIn. One of the bits of advice that I like to give, I'm doing more of it myself now because it's easier to say do what I say, not what I do, is you're always looking towards the top of the mountain to see everybody who's ahead of you, because we're all trying to climb a mountain, right, in our business.
Yes.
All right. But what we've got to remember is to turn around and look down to see how far we've come. To see how far we've come.
And true is that way. Yeah.
But the other thing is we're looking at the people at the very top of the mountain. Why don't we look at the person just like 2 or 3 feet ahead of us? Because they're treading the same steps. If I chat to you about your speaking career, you've probably forgotten what I'm just learning now. But if I find someone who's sort of like in their 5th year of speaking, then I can catch up with them. And it's the same with everybody else. And so when you stop and look at how far you've come, you'll be surprised.
Absolutely. 100%.
And stop worrying about other people.
Yeah, and I think it's that mindset thing though, that through in my employed career, I was always in sales, account management, partnerships kind of thing. So very much kind of taking the competitive mindset to things as opposed to a collaborative. So actually professionally, we're trained to be competitive. We're trained to take that approach. So actually when things like collaboration started coming up, I always looked at it really dubiously in that sense. And I've long since learned now that actually it's collaboration over competition every time, even with people that appear on the surface directly kind of in sync with what you do. This is the power of storytelling and lived experience, you see, is the fact that there's nobody like you on this planet. You do stand truly unique in this world if you only put out there what your standpoint is, what your personality and your story is. You create a market of one, which is near on impossible in any other field. And speaking, you can do that. You can create a market of one. And I was told a long time ago by somebody that was a great mentor for me that nobody likes a tribute act. I like that. Everyone wants to see you. So actually, when I'm using LinkedIn as an example, when I first started to share my clients on LinkedIn, so big names, people like Tesco, for example, that I work on a retainer with, why are you posting your clients on LinkedIn when all of your competition can see you work for? There's a couple of answers to that. The first one is, I'd rather my clients stay with me through choice rather than compulsion, that I'm the only option out there. That's that. The second thing is, when Tesco are tagged in one of my posts and they reshare to their network, it goes out to potentially hundreds of thousands of people, when actually by keeping that to myself and keeping really defensive and mean-spirited, goes nowhere. So actually that's the why I choose to share who I work with and what I do, as people that follow me already know that I do.
No, love that. And I'm listening to a book at the moment. I just want to quickly just give a shout out to everybody who's come on and said hello. So hi Mihal, hi Haley. Yeah, we've already had Nat. We've got Lucy. So Nat is having a cup of tea at 7:30 a.m. where she is, and it's all the way from Central Bristol. So go and have a cup of tea with him this afternoon.
Paul, I met in person for the first time in real life this week at a rooftop networking event. So, Paul, it's great to see you here too. Thank you.
Awesome. So, yeah, I'm listening to a book at the moment all about networking, and I can't remember the name of the title, but it's all about know, like, and trust. And because people buy from people who they know, who they like, and who they trust, and all this networking. And the guy basically is talking about being an altruist. All right, so giving stuff away. Now, that doesn't have to be millions of pounds to a charity. It could be, like you're doing today, giving away your time, your expertise to me today and people watching, listening on the podcast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's all of that sort of thing that we need to be doing more of. And so therefore, as a public speaker or using social media, then that's what we're doing, isn't it?
It is. I think this what you're also building is a connection with people. People want to know that the same me that they see and hear and feel online is the same one that shows up at their event. Because I guarantee if there's any disconnect, you will automatically build distrust. And the amount of people that have this split personality between what they're prepared to share online and offline. So I always maintain that stance of wherever I am, whoever I'm speaking to, this is me, this is how I engage with people, this is what I share. Okay, it won't be for everybody, but most of the time it's okay. But when I get to the event, people want to know that actually they're probably going to get a hug if they're huggers, that I'm a big warm guy. That's kind of my vibe. And if they don't feel that it creates that distrust for me. So I think it's such an important thing to tie up. And obviously that aligns with personal brand as well.
Yeah, you've mentioned personal brand a few times. Yeah, let's dig into that then. What do you mean by personal brand?
So personal brand, there is an element, personal brand, I guess, from the Urban Dictionary point of view, is about how we look and how we show up. There is an element of that. I've already mentioned the kind of the cap and the beard thing, but it's really, I do get calls like, are you the guy with the cap and the beard? Yeah, we've been told to book you. Means I can never shave or take this bloody thing off again. But there we go. But it's amazing what stuff sticks. And so people do have kind of memory hooks and they have personal branding in terms of how they look. But for me, it's deeper than that. Personal branding, look, I'm dad to a small Shih Tzu. I have no children. So legacy to me is about the work that I'm doing in the world. So trying to leave it better than when I found it kind of thing. So personal brand is also about legacy. Personal brand is also about bringing in the things that really emotionally connect with you into your brand. So you'll only ever follow through on emotional connection. If you build a business or a speaking career, which is based on something that you're not really bought into, you're never going to see it through. So if you look at I have two brands. I have my company, which is called Forging People. And I have my personal brand, my speaking work, which is Nick Elston. The Nick Elston logo is a country music belt buckle because I'm a huge country music fan. It's not all about losing your doggy, your missus. A lot of it is, to be fair. But huge country music fan. It's about storytelling. Of course, it's got to be country music. But so everything that I do is built into my branding and the feel and the tone. And I have the cap emoji that I use. And so it's just a really nice tie-up. I think the other part about personal brand, and it also ties in with what we were talking about before, is I've built my business as an ecosystem. And what I mean by that is that I didn't start out to do this for money. That wasn't ever the intention. I did it initially for therapy, but the bigger it got, the better I became. I started to get paid to deliver this stuff. And I'll be honest, it changed the dynamic. I suddenly didn't really, I don't know, you weren't emotionally connected as you were before because you were doing it as a transaction. So I had to start to build something which wasn't just about the money. It wasn't just, but obviously the mortgage doesn't get paid on dreams and missions. So you do have to get money as well. So what I do, I set up this kind of, I guess it's like a pricing structure. And I'm very open about this, that I charge my corporate clients top tier money because that's a premium product in person to go and deliver at their events. However, that then scales down. They subsidize the work that I do in the prison system and the education system, which don't have the budgets that corporates do. And then collectively, that allows me to do the work that I donate for free to domestic abuse charities and youth charities and groups that have no funding whatsoever, but you still want to create an impact. So ethically and morally, it still ticks that box for me. That gives me that driver, but also it means that commercially, I'm taking my personal brand and the business in a really strong direction as well. So for anybody out there who's kind of starting that speaking journey, start to think of it as an ecosystem. Because one of the most powerful things we can do, even if you have a business, an accountant, for example, if you have an accountancy business, you want to build a talk that becomes a product. So whether it's something you can sell or something that you can use as a gateway to clients. So for example, speaking at Accountex, which is where we first met. When we start to see speaking that way, we see it very, very differently. We see it as actually it's an activity that will bring us a lot of joy and happiness, but also potentially success and commercial success as well. I'll stop now. I do get passionate about this stuff, so I know I'm rambling.
No, it's brilliant, and I can't. I'm just looking at the time, and it just flies by. So there's some people watching. If anyone's got any questions, and just quick shout out to Mita because I've given everybody else a shout out. If any of you guys have got questions, then drop them in the chat, and we'll answer them. But if you're watching this, and you're sort of like thinking, "Oh, I like what Nick says, but the last thing I'd want to be is a public speaker." Come on, Nick, help us here because more people. So the stats go right. What are you scared of? It's spiders and flying and heights and stuff like that and death. And if you look at the stats, most people at a funeral would rather be in the box than give the eulogy because they don't like public speaking.
It's very true. Harvard did a survey on this. That it was public speaking ranked as a bigger fear than death. So we fear ridicule more than we do dying. we're screwed. See you later, guys. Been a great audience. But genuinely, in my years of coaching people to speak publicly, people are not terrified of public speaking. You are not terrified of public speaking. I don't mean you, Ash, you're brilliant, but anybody else watching this, it's
I am
very much more based than that. It's human.
I am terrified. I am terrified.
You're truly afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
You're afraid of being rejected, dismissed, or judged or ridiculed for holding an opinion, sharing an insight, having a belief. It's the same as imposter syndrome. That there are thousands of people that I've spoken to that say they experience imposter syndrome, and that feeling that you're not good enough, you're going to get found out, you don't deserve to have the love, success, the happiness that you have. Every single one of them absolutely deserves to have those things, but there's something in them that's usually been put there by somebody else that tells them you're not good enough, you don't deserve this, you don't deserve that. And also it's the same as procrastination. If anyone struggles with procrastination, once that project, that proposal, that application is close to your chest, you just want to let it out. But then when you let it out, it's there to be critiqued and criticized and judged and rejected. So actually the one thing to address with all of this is the fear of rejection. And I'll counter the public speaking argument, if there is one, by saying speaking isn't just about doing this. It's not just about being on stage, as it will be tomorrow in Leicester. It's not just about presenting or pitching. Actually, it's your ability to deliver any message to anybody, whether that's one person at home or 1 million people on a YouTube video. And if you cannot do that with clarity and confidence and power, it will ultimately affect your success by your own definition of that really subjective word. And that's okay for some people. So for me, see it as not speaking. It's your ability to communicate with the world.
Love that. Love that. Janine's just come on. She loves public speaking. Hi, Janine. And she wants to get more gigs. So any tips on how we get more gigs then, please, Nick?
I love this. Is the question I get asked the most. And the easy answer is do hundreds of free gigs first. If you're looking to become a pro speaker. And what I mean by that is if you have material that you want to test, and test it. So I do this. If I have a new talk that I want to deliver, I go to a networking event and I deliver it for free. So, or a social group, a charity, and that kind of stuff. So you're testing on a real life audience, but without the pressure of money. Once money gets involved, bad news can travel quickly if it's not up to scratch. So, especially when that's your thing. So I would say create a talk. Go to WI, Rotary, social groups, networking groups, charity groups. If you are there already, obviously not knowing you at the moment, Janine, if you are there already, then I would say pick one of your talks, pick one talk that you can call your signature talk, turn it into a product. So you want to deliver, you want to have a 50-minute version, a 30-minute version, a 15-minute version. So you've got different versions to different places. Brand it, give it imagery, give it a title, give it a one-line synopsis, give it a paragraph description, create 7 learning points, and make sure that only 10 minutes is about you. Any more than that, you could be the most exciting person on the planet, an A-list celebrity, and after 10 minutes, people are going to want to know what's in it for them. So I want you to reposition the rest of your talk from an audience perspective, and I hope that makes sense.
That's gold dust there. There's all in one sentence as well, I think, Nick. Yeah, have to unpack that. So if I'm you were talking about prisons earlier.
Yeah.
Do you know the story about Hurricane, the boxer? You don't know it? Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Are you a Bob Dylan fan?
Yes.
Right. Find his song "The Hurricane."
Okay.
All right, and listen to it. It's incredible. It is actually a movie starring Denzel. I think it's Denzel Washington.
Okay.
And it's incredible. It's an incredible story about this boxer that had, he was going to be the next Muhammad Ali, that sort of era. But he got wrongly accused and chucked in jail for ages. And it's an amazing story, and he could go around telling that story. But like you say, the story is all about him. So how do you cut out and put other things in it then? So what would you do then based on that story, or something that we would all know?
I think with the prison system is a really interesting one. I'm really fortunate, not fortunate because I've kind of worked hard to build it this way, but I have a very varied diary. One day could be a school, one day a prison, the rest of the week businesses, that kind of stuff. But when I started to work in prisons, I started to realize actually I had no experience personally with prison before, whether that be directly or indirectly. So my only reflections on prison were kind of like Shawshank or Green Mile kind of stuff. So I kind of half expected to walk into HMP 5 Wells thinking, yeah, I'm going to get shanked here kind of thing. But the thing that really surprised me the most, if you took away the security and you took away the bars, it felt like a university, felt like any other university that I was walking into. The demographic was the same, predominantly 18 to 29-year-olds, predominantly when we dug into the storytelling exercises that I do with them, predominantly one twist or turn the wrong way sent them in a whole different direction. And hand on heart, have there been times in my life where that could have happened to me? Potentially, to all of us, potentially, given the circumstances. Now, that's not for everybody, of course, but as a generalism, that's what I was starting to hear. So actually, when you're looking at the exercises that prisoners are doing for me as part of I do a program called Find Your Voice from Inside. So actually, a lot of the stories they're telling are not about them. They're telling the stories of the people that they've impacted. These are people that have signed up to be re-educated, to be reformed. They've taken accountability. They've wanted to create positive change. So actually, the stories were not really of them. The stories were of the people that they've impacted and how that's going to impact their lives ongoing. It's a very deeply moving experience to hear those things, actually.
No, brilliant. Janine's just said, thanks for the great advice. She lives on the French Riviera, so it's difficult to get local gigs. You need to be an international jet setter, Janine, or webinars, Nick?
Yeah, speaking is very much alive and well. One of the silver linings of COVID was the kind of real takeoff of being able to have an international speaking portfolio with far easier access. So, I mean, I do a lot of work in the US and South Africa and Australia, lots of other places around the world. But predominantly, most of it is done virtually. So again, depending on where Janine is in this, absolutely, it's commercially viable if that's where Janine is, but it's looking for opportunities. I would say if you're looking for opportunities, look for your immediate network. So I grew up in my professional career with lots of business networking, as you do, Ash. Lots of general business networking. Now, I used to love that kind of networking environment. In my current role now, it doesn't really lend itself very well to me. So the networking that I do are people that directly are my target clients. So, for example, the HR community, people manager community. So I do a lot of work with CIPD. So if I'm looking for events to speak at, then people like the CIPD are an amazing place for me to go. And I'm on their kind of bank of speakers and stuff, and they trust me with the writing and things. So do that. And speaking of writing, again, Janine, if you're struggling to get paid or speaking engagements of any type right now, offer to write for publications that will be good for you. Writing, again, is such a great way that people don't really explore too much.
No. Good advice. Nick, 30 minutes gone in a flash. Now, here's the good news. You're coming back, aren't you?
I am.
And we're going to do another podcast in person with a proper podcast studio. So that's coming up in July. Not sure when we're going to release that one. But Nick, thank you ever so much for coming on. What haven't I asked you that you want a quick bit of advice to share with everybody? And while you're thinking of that, I'll give a shout out to next week's guest, who is going to be the lovely Donna Eaton. She is a specialist when it comes to payroll. So she's going to come and have a chat with me next Monday. So come on, Nick, what's the answer to my question?
We covered so much. So I would say that one thing maybe I just want to kind of repeat is about one of the biggest things that we experience when we start to speak is who's going to want to listen to me, who's going to want to hear my story, or even people that say, I haven't really got a story. That's a real challenge for me because I've not met any living person yet that doesn't have a story. It's just about how much they're prepared or not prepared to share. There's a real art in being able to tell your story from an audience perspective. If you're going out sharing experience of grief or menopause or addiction, all the big things that we experience in life, don't say it in a first person perspective. Tell it from an audience perspective. That's the biggest thing I can offer right now.
Yeah, perfect. Maria's giving us a round of applause here. So love what you did. Nick, you've been absolutely superb. How can people get hold of you?
Nice, big and simple, just like me. NickElston.com. You'll find everything on there.
Fantastic. And we'll put all of those in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast. Nick, thank you very much for coming. Thank you to everybody for joining us. And we'll be back next week. Cheerio, Nick.
Thank you, Ash.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching or listening to my show this week. I want to bring to you people that can help us running our business. I love having a chat. I'm very nosy, very curious, and I'd love to ask questions. So if you want to be a guest or if you've got some ideas for guests, let me know. And if you want me to help you with your LinkedIn, get in touch because I want to give you a voice. Now, that could just be using LinkedIn, but I do other things as well. So I can help you with a podcast, a live show, and all kinds of other amazing things. So get in touch. My name is Ashley Leeds. I'm the 15-minute guy, and you can find me on LinkedIn.